40 people were killed in two terrorist attacks in the Moscow metro on the 29th of March. Trains and passengers began moving again with a high-profile police presence. Surveillance by the police has been increased. Chechen rebels said the bombs were their work.
We have patrols in all the stations to ensure travelers' safety. All my colleagues work with metal detectors. We also have canine brigades in all the stations.
There have been several terrorist attacks in Moscow's public transport system and elsewhere since 1999. The last one in 2004 was also in the metro. 41 people were killed. When the March 29th attack happened, the impact on many ordinary people didn't show much, compared to Madrid, for example. According to this sociologist, a great many Muscovites feel the state is impotent against the terrorist threat.
The explosions struck people in their hearts. It was a shattering event that affected them deeply. But strangely, there was no massive organized reaction. Studies in recent months and years say that 7 of every 10 Russians think that they or those close to them will fall victim to terrorist attacks. But it is not likely that that will mobilize the country. In Russia, we think that rising up is easier done alone than together.
Vladimir Makarevich and his wife Nina are alone with grief. Their 30-year-old son Seva was killed in the metro. They're not expecting anything from anyone anymore.
We don't need anything. They're going to give us 1 million rubles. Vasyeva hit the jackpot. The prize of a lifetime. The price of his life.
No one is alone under the metro surveillance system. Every station has been equipped with cameras. All the train cars are to have them by the end of the year. But this security expert says anti-terrorist effectiveness is measured according to the number of attacks you get. He sees London, Madrid and New York as having done a better job protecting themselves than the Russian capital has.
Independent military review. The color is just military.
What is specific about European and American cities is that their attacks were not repeated. This suggests that their special services are far better prepared than Moscow's. This is not about how many cameras or gas detectors you install everywhere, which is extremely costly. That's not the way to fight terrorism. The way to do that is by infiltrating terrorist networks and analyzing information that might indicate that a terrorist attack is being prepared. Russia is unfortunately very practical for terrorists because it is a very badly governed country with a very high level of corruption.
The second in command of the Metro Police says cooperation between the forces of order and intelligence services is essential, that it's up to each to put their house in order.
Society hates terrorism. Society cannot accept that corruption or other factors influence this problem. We have set up our own police of the police, which keep watch on all members of the personnel. If the slightest thing is out of line, we take the strictest measures.
The first explosion on March 29th was at Lubyanka metro station, just opposite the headquarters of the Russian intelligence service FSB, the Federal Security Service. Our request for an interview got no response. We spoke to a former security chief in the KGB, a retired general with a lot to say. He's angry. His son was badly wounded in the metro, and was still in hospital when we did this interview.
To fight terrorism, there has to be a global approach. Moscow has nuclear installations, vast stadiums, airports, ports, ammunition stores, which are targets for terrorists. But now all the resources are going into the metro. Frankly, in the Soviet Union, the problem of terrorism was managed a lot more efficiently. We see FSB posters today with a phone number asking people to call if they see something suspicious. People used to really want to inform the KGB when they saw something strange, even if it wasn't always important. But for that, they have to love their country. They need to trust it and trust the special services.
This specialist in Islam in the Caucasus region says what's wrong has first to be fought at the point of origin. He says Islamic values which are on an upswing in the North Caucasus can help.
It's not enough to fight terrorist attacks. We have to fight the causes of radicalization of the young people in the Caucasus, and there are a lot. Social injustice, corruption, the lack of prospects for the future, military force, pressure from the police, the lack of serious work by religious leaders, leaders who aren't wanted. To attack these causes, there has to be a global approach.
Writer and journalist Yulia Yuzik has her doubts. She's known for her book, The Brides of Allah, about women suicide bombers, who have often carried out attacks on behalf of North Caucasus radical Islamists. She sees the March 29th attacks as wrapped in a shroud and expects such violence to increase.
President Medvedev decided to reform the Caucasus to stop the cycle of force, fight corruption, unemployment, social problems, to get rid of terrorism's ground source. But the terrorist attacks have clearly weakened Medvedev, and all the reform projects seem strange when there are terrorist nests in there. The Interior Minister was also supposed to have announced major ministry reforms before the 1st of April. And then on the 29th of March, there were the terrorist attacks. And all discussion about reform fell by the wayside.
We've arranged to meet Jamila, a young woman from Dagestan who came to Moscow 17 years ago with her mother and sisters. They say their country is Russia and Moscow their capital. But their origins and their headscarves get them stopped by police patrols and feared by the Muscovites. The suicide bombers of the metro attacks, the authorities say, were also women from Dagestan.
I never used to have problems in the metro wearing the hijab, but now I hide it. I wear it openly at home, but in the metro it's under a hood or a cap. Everyone looks at me suspiciously. They're scared. It makes me want to tell them that I'm a good person. They mustn't be frightened. That just because I wear a headscarf doesn't mean I'm a terrorist. The Caucasus is such a small region. How can it be that the authorities can't manage to make it peaceful? And how can such a small region produce criminals like these? I don't understand. It's not a war for religion. No, it's not a war for religion. Religion condemns war.
Vasyeva Makarevich loved climbing mountains, loved the Caucasus and the people he met there, his father tells us. He wants answers from those who send the young to kill others and themselves.
The people in the Caucasus welcome you with open arms. How could this happen to us?
I want them and all the Caucasus given their independence and then close the borders. That's all.
Now, we can't put the blame on a single culprit. Say, it's him. It's not credible, because we are all guilty.